Gonna rock it now. Gonna rock it now by Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna rock it now. Gonna rock it now. Rock it, Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like Evelynn with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like your Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am joined by 5. No, 5. What the fuck? I'm joined by all 5 of us. All 5 of us are here for once. It has been. I feel like it's been like a month since we've seen everybody in the same location.
It has been a while.
Holidays and stuff, man.
Yeah, between holidays, people having stuff to do, headphones breaking,
between me
sickness.
supporting my alma mater beat ass in the national championship game.
Yeah.
OH.
I.O., buddy.
There you go, son.
I hate you both.
Yep. Well,
Yeah, this fucker didn't I.O. me.
I had IO and shit.
It's because he's a Michigan fan.
I had IO and
Scumbag.
shit. I wanted Oregon to win.
Patriots beat the Ravens. Okay, I'm done.
You know, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, my stuff's out. I got my stuff out.
Wow. I feel like Twitch chat's about to blow up on days. Like everyone's like,
maybe.
whatever, Ohio, and then like she's over here. Who Patriots? Everyone's like, fuck Tom Brady.
The League of Legends turned football podcast.
Yeah, but you know what? I grew up up north, so at least it's not like I'm not a bandwagon type fan. So
yeah,
it's all
you grew
good.
up in New England. It makes sense. Yeah, you just got to stop giving the Ravens flack. Go.
God damn it.
It never ends.
All right, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks.
The man who can't be stopped.
See ya. Well, if you guys want to, you know what? If you want to leave a review on iTunes, leave 5 stars and tell us how much DeClaude sucks at puns.
Yes, please.
Like these 2 people did. So we actually have a review from the Netherlands. There's a Dutch iTunes store apparently. So he left a review for us on the Dutch iTunes store, and he forwarded it because he was like, I don't think you guys will ever be able to see this, and I want you to see what I said about you. So let me take a drink of water.
Oh God.
My voice is still not working very well.
Adam has to drink before he speaks.
Right. Title, fun show with lots of information. Content, Trinity Force are a group of friendly guys having fun talking about League of Legends. Sure, they may cuss quite a bit, but putting that aside, they offer a lot of valuable information. They're not afraid of spending 20 minutes discussing my favorite champion Volibear out of the jungle, and they'll happily spend half an episode nitpicking over details of the last patch. Keep up the good work. Thomas from the Netherlands.
Thank you, Thomas.
Well, I'm so happy that you enjoyed our Volibear discussion about how we think he's so good out of the jungle, and then I go and play him and I fail miserably.
And you steal CS every time you can. It isn't a tax when you're acting like the IRS. Like you're your own. You're your own.
Listen, if it's in the tower, I'm taking CS. I'm not letting it go to the tower. And
no, it wasn't at the tower. You just were like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna take the whole wave." And then okay. Yeah, Adam's the only jungler that freezes CS in front of the tower and then takes every single one.
Yeah. Well, you're not there yet.
Wait, while the carry's there?
While they're like less than a step away.
What? There's not, you're not going to get it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to leave as soon as you get there.
It's probably a judgment call.
I can easily W it.
Well, you didn't. Well, you didn't.
I wasn't in range. Oh, you son of a bitch.
Well, Ben Gently writes in, I started listening to the podcast after I had to take a break from playing, and you guys had kept my league humor satiated. I started in the early 200, and since I've started digging into the archives, I'm listening to episode 151 as I type. Adam is trying very hard to make puns. Keep up the great work.
Keep trying to.
He's gone quite a back. We're episode 226, and he's back to episode 150. I told him to be careful because he's going to hit like episode 30 or something or earlier.
No, he's not going to recognize anybody.
Yeah. So Tyr, Ranhurt, Ostlander, Hornet, like you'll understand Hornet's soapbox when we talk about that.
Yeah,
those are quality episodes. He'll have fun with those.
Listen to those.
Quality episodes.
And eventually he'll hate the puns because at first I loved the puns and then I grew to hate them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At one point, I went through before I was on the show, and I did that. I went back through like a bunch of the old episodes. I had like a 3-hour drive to like a work conference, so I was listening to it the whole way there. And I turned my phone off, or I thought I did. So I get into the conference, and I'm there with like 100 other people in corporate office. And all of a sudden, the episode where Adam spilt something on his pants and just yelled, "I'm taking off my pants," and like. And so Tyr goes, "You better be streaming this or whatever." Just blared on my phone, like for whatever reason, like in the middle of this conference. It was very interesting.
That was the only episode that so Tyr and I were alone. It was like one of the only 2-man podcasts. In the beginning of the show, I'm like, fuck, and it's beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
I remember
in the middle
that.
of my work conference.
Only Satyr could pull off a 2-man episode.
Yeah, well, yeah, right?
He's got a lot to say.
Well, I guess we have a lot to say tonight as well, as we're going to move into patch 5.1. We have previously discussed this. I tweeted it earlier today. I think it was a week and a half ago, we had discussed this, because most of these changes were running the PvE. So we're just going to run back through and talk about most of everything. This actually might be a fairly short episode, because if you really want to hear our rundown, go back a couple episodes to hear it. But we will do our best to hit the hour mark.
And they also supply some context here where we were missing it before.
Right. I mean, and that in itself is pretty eye-opening in that you get to see the reasonings behind it. So,
right. Well, starting with one that they didn't add in the PvE patch notes, the overlapping crowd control effects fix, where previously there was a gap in between perfectly timed crowd control where you could knock somebody up and as they landed, you stun them. There was a small gap where the person could spam an ability and get out of there, even if you were perfectly timing it. And they have fixed a long-standing bug where champions with overlapping crowd control effects could occasionally use abilities, flash zone, use hourglass, etc., while transitioning between disables. This will be turned on at a later date in the patch.
So I have a feeling this is going to be one of those things where all those extremely mobile champions who've been able to just slide out with an ability and like get away in situations where other people should otherwise be dead, this switch is going to be flipped, and then people are going to die left and right and be like, what the hell? Like, I used to be able to get out of it.
I really hope this doesn't affect Ezreal's ability to just arcane shift out of Blitzcrank hook every time. Because I love doing that. But I'd be really sad if this... I mean, I wish I knew about this bug. Because I feel like if I did, I would be spamming flash more in between crowd control effects.
Right.
And sometimes actually be able to get out of that. But I never bothered because I figured, oh, I'm getting chain CC'd, I'm fucked.
No, I always felt like when I was chain seed that I was dead anyway. I think I complained about it the other night. I got hit by like a thresh hook, a flay, a pole. I don't know what the hell it was. There was like a chain of 3 or 4 CCs, and I went, holy shit, they can do that? But I wasn't spamming flash or anything in between it, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Had we known. Oh. Well, I'm sure there were people that did spam flash, or that do that regularly, and they knew about this.
Oh, I didn't know about the bug, but whenever I would get caught in overlapping CC, I'd spam flash as well, or Zonia's, whatever I had. I'd mash the button as fast as my little MS hand could go, and sometimes I'd get it.
Space.
Yeah,
a little space, or
it's
just
not unreasonable to
a moment of reprieve.
Well, plus you bank on the fact that maybe the enemy messes up. You know, maybe they don't overlap it perfectly. So,
and if they don't overlap it perfectly, and you do end up Zoniazing or whatever, maybe they end up missing one of their overlap CCs, or when you come out of it, they don't have the cooldowns up, so you can immediately let's use Fizz and E out in a situation where you were waiting for the cooldown and you wouldn't have had it otherwise.
Sure.
So I don't know that this might shut that down a bit.
Yeah, even with this bug fix, spam the crap, because this doesn't help for someone who messes up or makes a mistake.
Right.
This doesn't fix that. That's not a bug. So this only fixes if they're doing everything right to chain CC you, then they're doing a good job and they're going to get you. But if they screw up once, you'll get out.
The difference, though, is that now in situations where before you would have had a gap just because of how the CCs naturally lined up based on game mechanics, that's gone. So, like, you don't get that free pass.
This is a change where unless you're playing in the LCS and a LAN network, or you're playing
probably
in
not
California,
going to notice
you're
it.
not going to notice it.
Yep. Good point.
If you're playing at 80 ping, or you're playing on 100 ping, you're playing on a second of lag or just under a second of lag. I don't think you're going to be able to. I mean, I'm at the point where I notice a half a second of lag can kill me because I swear I pressed the button. I know my finger is still on the button and I'm dead. So I hope this changes something for the LCS players.
You know what, like on the flip side of this, and to try to make this like a slightly positive thing, even if you're on the defending side, a lot of times when you get chain CC'd or something like that, and you're hitting a flash and you're panicking like that, you're dead anyway. So maybe this will save you a flash or two when, you know, people panic and you don't think, oh, they have a gap closer, I'm dead anyway, so I might as well not flash. So this might actually save you in some situations where you're going to die anyway, but at least next fight you have flash up. I know I've done it where I'm like, man, I don't know why I flashed that. Like, I was going to be dead anyway. And then it was the next fight and I was like, man, I really wish I had flash up.
See, again, though, this just becomes one of those situational things. In certain situations, that's great. It's the same thing as like those early game fights where you're level 1, you get collapsed on. It's not worth blowing your flash early so that you have it for whatever fight you get engaged on when a jungler shows up or something later on in the laning phase. I mean, that it could be that situation. At the same time, maybe you're getting locked down right next to a wall around Dragon or something, and that half a second of reprieve is just enough to get over the wall. I don't really know how this is going to play out. It's
I don't
so
think we're going to notice
situational.
it that much, like you guys said, unless you're either on really, really low ping or you're in the LCS. It probably won't affect most of us most of the time.
Yep. So keep mashing your abilities when you start getting caught. You never
Depending
know.
on the situation.
Don't mash.
God, that
you
is
don't
the
want
most
to. Yeah.
for something we talked about for a few minutes. That's the most just garbagely broad advice I've ever heard.
Garbagely broad. Just mash. Right.
Just-
Or not.
Sometimes.
Or, yeah, just
Or not.
sometimes you should do this. Other times,
Sometimes,
you
but not. Yeah.
just
do it.
keep
Just
doing
mash.
what you're doing.
All right, well, we're going to keep talking about the patch notes because that's what we're doing tonight. And we talked about Corki previously where Valkyrie has 100 mana increase, and we expected it to be because he has such high damage in lane that he needed some kind of trade-off to... his escape was just too easy to use, and that's pretty much what they say in these patch notes. It says, increasing Valkyrie's mana cost allows for us to maintain an important lever. Here's the word lever. We talked about that. They like to pull those levers.
They love their levers.
Yep.
For us to maintain an important lever that presents options to Corki's opponents. Either he uses so many spells that he can't escape, or he gets forced to use Valkyrie to escape and gives you some breathing room before beginning his barrage all over again.
Or
That's
if
exactly
he uses... Sorry, I was going to say, or if he uses Valkyrie to engage, and he's not minding his mana cost or his mana pool, then he might just be out of mana, and he can't do anything else afterwards.
Right.
You might think to engage with Valkyrie and then not have enough mana to Q. And they're like, oh, well, that didn't work out.
We pretty much predicted this context when we talked about it in the PBE notes.
Yeah, it's something you should pay attention to
Exactly
now,
what we
definitely.
talked to. Yep.
Buy an extra mana potion.
It's kind of like when Lucian
Like
had
Pun
that
said.
no mana cost on his gap closer. When you
Yeah.
when you have a low mana gap closer on top of a ton of damage, like it's just gonna be a problem. So
A low
it's
mana,
just like that.
a no mana E that gives you 2 auto
Right.
attacks.
Well, that was also.
And it has a much lower cooldown.
Yeah, the cooldown's reduced every time you auto attack too. Who at Riot thought that was a good idea?
But it's the same idea. Like, if you're going to be a bully in lane and still be super safe, it just creates a problem for your lane opponent, so... I don't know.
Yeah, no, good point. Elise, Q does more bonus damage against monsters. That is the that's the little
stuck.
caption. We talked about Neurotoxin Venomous Bite now does 75, 100, 125, 150, 175 maximum bonus damage versus monsters. Before it was 50, 75, 100, 125, 150. Chira, are you loving this change?
It's a quality of life buff. And it was funny. I was in a game with somebody who was playing Elise, and they had made a comment about how, oh, I'm only doing this much damage because of like things that were changed on Q, and I'm like, it's just bonus damage. You're still doing damage, and it's only to monsters. So, I mean, yes, this is going to help clear speed if you're still maxing Q. That's great. I mean, that's what you're going to max
an
anyway.
E?
I actually got asked by somebody if I max E first. I don't, just because the Q is like the clincher for murdering people quickly, and it's spammable, and it helps your clear out. This is just going to help your clear out even more.
Now, later on in this patch, Stalker's Blade is now... Not Stalker's, Machete is now giving 5 extra gold per kill.
Mm-hmm.
Does this bring Elise, with this Q change, back into contention as a top jungler?
I don't know. I still really, like, to be honest, I haven't really had that many issues.
Well, you're getting an extra... What would you do before? That's 15, 30, 45 gold on if you clear 3 camps. Assuming you're not... if you're clearing 3 minion camps.
Right.
Is Elise that big of a farmer? I didn't think that she stayed in the
She's a
jungle
ganker.
forever.
But that's
No,
an extra
I mean-
potion, right? That's an extra potion when you go back now.
Yeah, but if you're using your spiders to tank, the potion thing isn't as big of a problem. Like, the Q change is going to be pretty solid. It's gonna bring up her clear time a bit. Even like with the health pools being what they are, though, that much damage isn't crazy until you have some CDR to continuously just pump out Qs left and right, and that's
it's a 25 damage increase every level
per rank.
But with the money, I mean, if it's a change to machete, then every champion that clears is going to be getting extra money. So I mean, that just comes down to if you are one of those early game clear monsters that can walk through and kill things really quickly, you can farm a little better. So I've always been in the book where Elise is one of those junglers that can still gank at 3. She still has some of the better like lane ganks, or like ganks to a lane out of all the champions currently, just because if you can land that cocoon and you can follow up with that damage, you're gonna have a pretty, you can borderline force a flash if not get a kill. So again, this is just a quality of life buff. It's not game breaking. This isn't going to just miraculously bring her up to the best jungler in the game again sort of level, but it helps. Every little bit helps.
Right. Can't complain about the change.
Right.
Well, speaking of junglers, Evelynn has a change. Passive Shadow Walk. Now, you restore 2% of your missing mana per second, rather than 1% of your maximum mana per second. So you're actually restoring
your stealth,
more mana. And does this address the issue of her being able to spam Ravage in the jungle? Not Ravage, Q in the jungle. Is that what it is?
Well, according to Riot's reasoning, yes, but I mean it's going to help because they're saying that she ran out of mana all the time. I haven't played enough Elise to really.
She did run out of mana quite.
Yeah, I know Evelynn, people complained about that. I know quite a few junglers who think Evelynn will likely come back into contention eventually if they give her some buffs. But this is one of those things like. Riot stated that they want to have a much slower approach to buffing junglers that were really, really strong in the past. And this is sort of one of those, we're just going to give them a buff a millimeter at a time until like they come up to a level where they're not breaking the game again.
And they potentially are too strong because they've been touched in so many areas.
Right. And we've seen Evelynn in the past just be an absolute monster because of other
she was in ban prison
she has. Exactly. But because of just, when you have a champion that can't be seen by normal sight wards, that's pretty big. But
yeah, we'll see.
So can I go on a random tangent on Evelynn? So I never really had a great warding strategy against Evelynn other than buy a ton of pink wards and watch them constantly be killed and then buy tons more pink wards. There's actually, I was listening to I forget who, some really, really high level player. There's actually a way to ward against Evelynn using just regular sight wards, and you actually ward her buffs or right behind them. Like if you ward the bush right behind the red buff wall, then when she's at red, you can actually see her hate spikes going through the wall when she's killing red, so you know what side of the jungle she's on, and then you can play a little bit more safely like that. So you actually ward to watch her camps and not to watch her.
Right.
And that will allow you to actually use your sight stone, your sight stone and your sight wards.
Right.
And you still have to buy the pinks, like it's still a necessity, but at least it gives you a little bit more leeway than just finding her like at the last minute.
You just got to pay attention.
Your lane.
That's exactly.
You have to watch them.
You have to watch your mini map, right?
I love that suggestion, but for people silver and below, that probably it doesn't do very much at all.
If you listen,
and it's hard, because you don't see the champion icons, so you really have to watch them because you're not going to notice on your mini map in the corner of your eye like abilities. You see, normally you watch for the icons and things like that. You actually have to watch your wards.
That's still, and that argument can be set. Well, not argument, but that fact can be like seen as well with champions like Vi, who you can see her E when it's cast if she's facing a wall. Like the Wraith camp or the Raptor camp is a great example of that. If Vi's not positioned intelligently, the mid laner can easily see that you're at the the Raptor.
Same with
camp.
Nocturne, yeah.
Exactly. That was the other example I was going to bring up.
Anybody
So
pushes over. Well, they tell you, if you've listened to any streamer or anybody that has played against an Evelynn, they tell you to ward her Wraith camp or the Wolves to put a ward in it. And now this doubly so, because if she smites Wraiths, she has to find that ward in Wraiths. We had mentioned that previously, but so that way you don't have to watch it, because I think watching a camp and paying attention to your bottom lane takes quite a bit of micro.
Yeah.
Well,
awareness.
That's what I was bringing up with the people that, and I'm not hitting.
Yeah,
on,
if you're in
I don't want to hate.
A lot of awareness tasks.
That's exactly it. Like, they're not multitasking to the extent that higher level players are going to be. I would say most gold players wouldn't even notice either, unless they play a lot of jungle, or they've played at a higher level. It's something the average player.
Strategy if you're
most
higher,
definitely.
if you're higher ranked.
And if you can get a pink ward deep enough into their jungle early on, at that one bush that we've talked about before, across from the red camp, where they never check, I mean, that would be a good spot to catch Evelynn too, because you can see you're killing red, and you can see where she goes after that.
I would even say that with the changes that they're making to that wall around the base, that ward is going to be killed less if Evelynn runs toward that section of the map as well. So if you can get that ward in there, that might be up a very long time.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and keep moving on with the patch 5.1 rundown here. Excuse me. Gnar, he's had his boomerang, the cooldown refund on catch lowered to 45% from 60%. We talked about this. He was just too much of a machine gun and too much of a bully in lane, being able to consistently throw that Q out.
Don't catch.
Which was also allowed him to last hit quite a bit and really control his passive.
I mean, there was a situation where even like Gnar could do a lot of bullying as it was, but even if he was behind, he could still continue to farm very safely with Q, just because he could throw it whenever he felt like it.
Yeah, this change tames his lane, but not his game. So it's the same at the end, but
right, because they make up for it.
Because
Argon receives a passive or increases boomerang throws, cooldown, refund, and catch to 50, 55, 60. So by rank 3, it is back up to where it was at the beginning of the game. So it allows him to continue to be a bully as the game goes on. He's just not so much of a presence in lane early with those Qs. I like it. It's a nice change. I like it because it's a nice change of pace. I've always felt like it's been too hard to trade with Gnar, and there's too much time where Gnar is bullying in between the middle of his rage bar filling up and the end of his rage bar, and if he is really, really good about watching that rage bar and stay where it's at, he can poke and farm with Q effectively.
Oh yeah. Every time you try to trade with him, he's going to have that Q up, and then that Q adds a stack of his W, so he's going to proc off of his W too when he auto attacks.
So you're slowed, and he's moving more
faster.
quickly.
Yeah,
it was just too hard to deal with.
It's a free phage thing, and it's resourceless for all intents and purposes. So it's not like he's wasting mana doing it.
Right. So Hecarim changes here. Yeah. Next stop on our 2015 Jungle Love Train is the Horse Lord himself. So Rampage has had its mana cost decreased to 20, 23, 26, 29, 32, which before it was 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. And Spirit of Dread, which is his W, monster minion healing cap has been increased to 90, 120, 150, 180 to 10 from 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. So he's gaining more life and doing more damage over longer periods of time.
Right. Yeah. That's a good buff. It's a really good buff for his jungle player.
Huge quality of life buff.
It actually puts him right back in there.
It's funny too, because I was bored the other day, and I don't know why, but I just turned on Dyrus's stream just because he was like the only person streaming at the time, and all he played for like 4 games in a row was Hecarim laning. He played Hecarim mid, he played Hecarim wherever, and he got fed as hell and was one-shotting people left and right.
God
so like, I don't understand any of that, because apparently I'm just not at that level, but Hecarim buffs, if we start seeing more Hecarim, who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Monster / minion, so jungle and lane healing.
That's a lot of sustain in lane.
Yeah.
When you start adding that extra minion healing.
Oh, yeah, 30 extra per rank.
And if you come out of the jungle and you're sitting at 3/4 health and there's minions around, you're getting a pretty decent amount of health more quickly than you would have otherwise. So
Ronan is already thinking about top lane Hecarim.
No, I don't like
yes,
top
you are.
lane.
Don't deny it.
I like
Don't
mid lane
fucking deny it.
I like mid lane Hecarim more than that because it's easy for him to push the lane and roam, which he needs to do.
I was gonna say his roaming, he can roam.
Having to use your ult if your flash is on cooldown to get out of anything, in that ultimate cooldown's like 2 minutes at rank 1. It's way too long, and it's too big of a team fight changer to use to get out of something.
It's still a get out of jail free card.
It is. I played mid lane Hecarim against Azir the other day, and that wasn't that bad of a lane. Grant, I was down a couple levels because I roamed more than I should have, because I was trying to help out the other lanes that were losing. So I was like, if I roam and do this, I'll be fine. And I got down a couple levels because of that. But because of W's healing and Q's wave clear, taking poke from Azir with a couple potions really wasn't that bad. I just pushed the wave right back and take a couple pokes, and then we'd be even, and I'd try to roam.
So Hecarim top is no good because of roaming issues. He's better at roaming from mid.
Yeah.
But top turn is totally legit.
Oh, Topturn's totally legit.
It's not like he can roam or anything like that.
And it's not like he's passively pushing waves or anything either.
It just
Topturn does more
it's
damage.
alliteration. It sounds better than mid-turn.
Yeah, right. It is. Topturn's better because he can block spells, and then he doesn't get taken
and that's
out.
fine, but
Bullshit.
Topturn still has the issue where he casts Q 3 times and he's out of mana.
Never happened. Nope, not this Topturn. This Topturn's amazing.
You're so full of shit. I can't even
my
begin
Topturn
to
flex
explain
pick.
it.
Just I'll be show you.
Can't even.
Jurek, you literally can't. Yeah.
My heart hurts. Don't get me wrong, I love playing Nocturne.
If you're thinking about top Hecarim, just think about Renekton. Renekton has the Q and the W and is resourceless in his.
And he got
Q.
to change this patch.
So
Big
and-
change. Which
Yep.
we need to get to, actually. We have.
Let's
multiple.
transition to that one since it kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really relate, but
So we're talking about it.
yeah.
We've never talked about this, but these changes to Renekton with Fury generation makes me think that he's going to start seeing some more play in the top lane, especially against fighters like Aurelia, who he'll be able to duel quite a bit more, or Jax or others like that. So he's had quite a number of changes. His passive, Reign of Anger, the Fury decay rate is 4 Fury per second, but this is a change because he's gained so much more Fury when he's attacking champions. So Cult of the Meek, the healing versus minions, has been changed so that it increases every time you rank up Q. It used to be 5% of your damage dealt. Now it is 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, plus 0.04 of your bonus attack damage.
Now, is that per minion hit?
That's healing
Yes.
versus minions, right?
And that's just
Okay.
flat healing. There's not percent
Right.
in there. Okay, so
Which they explain as they intend it to be a buff for late game.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
mitigation that comes into
Oh, it's a
effect
small
late
buff,
game
yeah.
from people buying armor affected the percent of the damage he dealt, which meant he healed less. So now that's a flat amount. He can heal for roughly more late game because it ignores the mitigation.
Assuming he has some AD on him. Assuming he has a Brutalizer or a Hydra or something on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
Okay,
like
yeah,
these 80
so-
racers are huge, but
So he's getting a
help.
flat amount of healing rather than a mitigatable amount of healing.
Right.
yep.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Now, empowered, it essentially triples. It goes from 3 to 9. It's 9, 13.5, 18, 22.5, 27, and it's 0.08 bonus attack damage. So if it's empowered, you're doubling / tripling your
And in the past, it was
amount of
just
healing.
it was just a doubling of that. It was from 5% to
to
10%. So if it's tripling, that's a pretty big change.
Right.
Especially when it comes to champion healing.
And healing
Yeah.
versus champions is the same thing, but that has 0.12 bonus attack
bonus
damage
damage.
with the scaling on it. And then the change is a little different. It actually heals a little bit more versus champions. So he's healing more versus champions as he puts in the ranks. And then empowered is also It's double. It's 27, 40, 54, 67.5 plus 24
Triple.
bonus AD.
81 at max rank. You skipped that one.
double the
sorry,
bonus
81.
attack rank, attack damage, but
health
triple for the
champion
base
hit.
81
81 healing.
plus 0.24 bonus attack damage.
of what your attack damage is. Yep.
Right. So he's getting a lot more life. And his Fury generation on non-champion hits is now 2.5 per target rather than 5. So he's gaining less Fury when he's just attacking minions, so he can't gain as much Fury as quickly. But the Fury generation on champion per hit has been increased to 10. So he become a duelist. He's a duelist at this point. Once he's in and he's attacking, he's gaining more Fury, which allows him to theoretically use more empowered abilities while he's attacking champions.
I mean, he's still going to be gated by cooldowns, but when his cooldowns are up, he's going to be furious.
I see what you did
Well
there.
put, Shira.
They've also, to compensate, Ruthless Predator is W.
was
Fury
nice.
Generation bonus versus champion is now 10 Fury. So he gains 10 Fury for using it on a champion.
And you used to gain nothing before?
He's using it nothing.
Yeah.
And E, the dice portion of Slice and Dice. Fury Generation on non-champion units is 2.5. So every time he dices through, every non-champion he dices through, he gains 2.5 Fury. Every champion he dices through, he gets 10 Fury. So this dude is gaining Fury along with his ultimate like mad. So essentially, with a little bit of cooldown reduction, he should be able to last longer in a fight, assuming he's hitting a lot more champions and using and staggering his abilities properly.
I was about to say, if you're getting a 100,
So really, he should be able to empower
Plus.
everything he has.
yeah,
in a fight.
If you were able to queue the entire enemy team late game, you're getting back like 600 health in one ability with an empowered
bad.
queue.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, because just get a Spirit Visage or something like that on him, and you're just, that's a lot of healing.
That's
and as
super
Twitch
late
Chat
game, right?
mentioned,
Yeah.
that he's probably going to be a lot better in team fights now because he's going to be able to cast more empowered abilities. Whereas before, how many empowered abilities would he get off in a team fight? Like one or two?
One, maybe two,
Yeah.
probably two. And you would usually save your empowering ability for Slice and Dice because you wanted the armor reduction from Dice, which is his E. So Slice is the first one, E is the second one. So the second time you use your E, you're gaining that extra Fury. So yes, in team fights, theoretically, he should be able to use an empowered of every piece of his kit should be empowered.
I was about to say, with like I'd say for every rotation, he'd almost have like a rotation of his abilities. He probably could kit one empowered ability off. I really want to try this out, because if it's more than that, that's a lot of empowerment.
Does this give him any kind of jungle options?
I don't.
Would you try him in the jungle
No,
with
because
these
it's
changes?
minions. It's not monsters. None
They're
of this is
non-
monsters.
Non-champion.
Healing versus minions. Healing versus minions has been changed. Healing versus champions. Healing versus champions. Non-champion hit. Non-champion hit.
The only thing that was changed, yeah, it's non-champion for Fury Generation, but
Right.
yeah, the healing.
The healing isn't changed for monsters.
That would be weird if it's all these changes for minions and then monsters is 5%.
Yeah,
Well,
it seems like a
And
watch
typo.
so
his,
I think they mean minions monsters, but you know what?
Or, I mean,
I don't know.
they've been sticklers for the wording in the past,
They
so
have
I
been.
don't know. But at the same time, so what? He runs in the jungle and he cues the wolf camp and he doesn't get any heal because it's not phrased otherwise.
So he
Yeah,
doesn't gain
if
heal.
it's phrased that way, yeah.
I mean,
You
I don't
should.
feel like that would be that way.
I doubt it, but I really. I don't think he's going to be a jungle
Yeah,
option.
I mean,
That's not
as
something
we
to
said,
worry
he makes him a
about.
better duelist against
Yeah.
champions anyway.
So really now I think this changes him. He is going to be, he's back to being a lane bully. He can build that early brutalizer. He can build an early cutlass, or he can build an early Tiamets.
I was about to say, an early Tiamat's on him with the healing changes. I mean, if you even want that full distance, that's a lot of healing back if you get a Hydra and that. Like,
See, but even then, he doesn't even need that extra AD just because of the bonus ratios are so nice, especially
Right.
with the full Fury hitting a couple champions. Even if you're gaining 200 life back off of a Q, and you're saving your Q to gain that life back, you become sort of like a Mundo or a Scion in a fight, but you're actually doing damage.
right.
Where you're that tank, you are like Punch. We were talking before the podcast. You said any of those champions, they force you to move. Now, if you've got a Renekton barreling down on you, you know what that's already like. Like, what if this guy is slicing toward you, runs you out of fight, dices back in, heals back up, and runs back toward you? That's a scenario that could definitely happen in a close quarters
I
team
don't like
fight.
these changes anymore.
Well, and it's not just that. Again, I want to bring up the fact that if you do have an empowered Q and you run right in the enemy team, you're going to get a ton of health back. So, if anything, this just incentivizes Renekton to be that pain in the ass, massive crocodile that jumps into the middle of an enemy team and tries to cause as much havoc as he can.
Remember, he was king of top lane for a long time. He was the king. He was the go-to pick.
Right.
With these changes, not much change to make him not the go-to pick anymore. With all these changes back, you think he's going to reclaim that crown? Is he going to be able to contest or compete with the Rumbles out there?
I mean, yeah, it all comes back to what the meta is now.
In a way,
there's a lot of ranged casters.
In a way, I'm
is.
sort of surprised with these changes because I feel like playing with the Fury generation is sort of, especially with adding the Fury generation onto the bonus generation onto the W and the E. Those are kind of big levers to pull for. Like, look at the Elise change and look at the Evelynn change.
Well,
like they were
said
very,
were
very
playing-
slight.
Yeah.
But when you're adding a bunch of Fury, I mean, even if they're making doubling the Fury decay when he's not attacking something, giving something that makes like one of his abilities hit way harder and heal for way more, giving him the option to do that isn't exactly a small change. So I don't know, like I haven't seen this in action yet, so I can't say, okay, maybe the Fury generation isn't as big as we're thinking it is. But from just what's stated, if he's able to get more empowered abilities off, that's really scary for a champion who is already a top tier pick in the past.
But he's to even this out though, he is gaining less fury from monster hits or minion hits rather.
So it forces him to attack champions more.
Yeah, he has to be aggro. He has to be on a champion. So
Right.
I think with the top lane meta, you've got your Kennens, your Lissandras, you got Gnar, and then Rumbles. He can definitely duel a Rumble. He could probably do a good Renekton could duel Gnar. Kennen technically should be able to. He should be able to duel a Kennen up until a certain level, and then the Kennen should start winning just based on the damage they're getting. But if you can't stack your passive as Kennen, you can't do damage, right? So you're eating shit. And Lissandra as well. You could technically dodge all that stuff with slices and dices and make it an attacker. I mean, it's all really comes down to how good is the Renekton and can he outplay him? That's what the beauty of Renekton is. There's nothing here that makes me really go, Renekton is going to get beat by this champion.
I think this will help him sustain the mana bars of the top champions that are now coming into play. Sustain, his health will sustain to the mana bar at least.
Well, and I'm just looking at it right now without any bonus AD or anything, just based off of him going in at level 5 or level 6 with 3 points into Q. If he's hitting, let's just say there's 6 minions there with an empowered E, and he's hitting one enemy champion, he's only getting 130-ish health back if you don't take into consideration any bonus damage. So like that's in an extended fight, if you're only getting 1 to 2 empowered Qs off, that kind of is a wash for the amount of health you're getting back as well if there's that many minions hitting you and an enemy champion. So
yeah,
again,
that's just Renekton as he is though.
Yeah. I mean that's true, and that's not like say you start like a Doran shield or something. That's great, and that you're taking a little less damage. But I'm gonna have to see this in action first, and really kind of the first time I get my ass kicked by a Renekton, who knows what he's doing.
You'll know.
As soon as the changes go through, I'll know.
And
you know what? I'm not gonna say it's gonna be terrible again because this is the same thing with Rek'Sai. Like a really, really good Rek'Sai is arguably one of the scariest jungling things I've seen at the moment. And really, like people that don't have as much experience on Rek'Sai or lower level players are terrible at it, and I'm not afraid of that champion at all. So
we'll see. And you know what? He doesn't have a mana bar, so you just have to buy the red potions,
right?
And you could slow cook your health back with the crock pots, and you're good to go. So
one of the things about
God
this,
damn it,
that one was actually pretty good.
that was
I'll do it for a while.
Oh
one of
my
the
God.
things about this though is that like it's really irritating to beat a Renekton in lane and then he just sits at tower and gains all his health back like through a sustain, and he won't be able to sustain as much as easily,
right?
if he's
Unless
not
he's
able to
attacking
duel
a champion.
you.
Yep.
Right. So if he's losing his lane, you can keep him losing his lane and widen that gap. So if he doesn't get ahead early or he isn't able to duel you, then you have a lot more room to kind of win that lane and just bully him out so that he has to recall more and things like that because he's just not gaining as much fury from the minions. Just thought that was worth noting.
At the same time,
Good
though,
point.
What's him being a bully?
if he is like, okay, so his bullying potential is hurt, but if he gets ahead of you now and he's able to smack a champion whenever he wants, he's going to crush you. And
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay, so he bullies less hard, but he snowballs in a duel harder.
Yeah. If you can duel well, and you can get. Honestly, at this point, even if he comes out even in lane and can teleport and get a better teleport than the enemy, he could be the deciding factor in a Dragon Team fight. And
he was already one of the better champions for Dragon Team fight just because of his ult and the fact that he's a big ass crocodile with CCs and he does damage, or at least in the early game. So like, and since dragons are important right now too, that's a very, very nice thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody to just be able to teleport into team fights, tank a dragon, no problem, or zone people out because you're a giant annoying and you can dive.
Crockbot, I hate you, Declaw.
Yeah, that I'm never gonna not be able to think of that every time I play that character.
Oh, got some crockpots.
God damn it. All right, Janna's got a Howling Gale change. Her missile width has been decreased to 120 Teemos. I guess it's not Teemos, technically. That's like pixels.
That's plenty.
120 Teemos would be too many. That would be like the whole map. So missile width from 150 to 120. The champion is consistently powerful right now. She is definitely one of the top. She is the top 2 supports between Thresh and Janna.
She might be the best solo queue support.
Yeah.
I guess I have to leave this one over to Days. Are you going to notice this? Are you going to notice a 30 total missile width decrease?
I think you will. I mean, it's not just that it's 30. It's 30 out of like 150. So you have 120. That 30 like would be an additional like quarter increase onto her range. Like if you think about it that way, that's a decent amount. And I don't play Janna a lot. Like I do play her, but I don't play her a lot. But I know playing against her, there's nothing more irritating than thinking you're out of that tornado,
and it's still
and then you get knocked up anyway. Like it's almost like why bother trying to?
Why the hell is this being changed? But Thresh's Q not being changed.
I don't know.
That is
Thresh's
a great
Q
point.
Hitbox is crazy, and Morgana hitbox on her Q is really big too.
The Howling Gale change is just going to make it so that the tornadoes that looked like they weren't hitting but did hit aren't going to hit as often.
Right, exactly. And I don't think it's something that's going to make or break her. I don't think it's something that's going to make her less useful. I don't think it was intended for that. I think it's a little bit more of a quality of life for the opposite team to help with. They're all about clarity right now, and it's really confusing when it looks like something's not going to hit you and it does. So this just helps players understand and be able to, have that counterplay against her and things like that. But it's a way to keep her in line without having to affect the things that she does well.
Rito, please fix Thresh Hook.
Yeah, please. I know you're listening, Ghost Crawler. Please, for the love of God, fix Thresh Hook.
What's worse about the Thresh Hook is the visual. You see it missing you, and then it goes, oop, nope.
No,
you actually see it curve.
You see it missing you, and then you hear the most depressing noise that ever happened.
And you see it connect.
Yeah, you hear me scream, how did that hit me?
Out of that ka-chunk. I really want to see, I still want to see that the hook curve again. Like, it just immediately goes from being that straight to just go like that, even though it's off to the side.
There's so many videos of it. Like, you can find them real easy.
May as well be a homing missile.
They're
sometimes.
like the Madagascar penguins. You didn't see anything. It really did hit you. No, it didn't. I swear.
Okay, Dad to Claude. So Jayce had a change to his hypercharge. It now does less damage, percent damage, attack damage total. We kind of had talked about this and thought it might be because of his mid presence and allowing for like dragon fights. The amount of damage you can do by pushing towers. But tower damage is really what we looked at. But they said for a guy so strong when it comes to long range combat, it doesn't make the most sense that he should blow you up in close quarters because you would press W, press R, and then jump in with a Q and smack him 3 times with your auto attacks.
And if you're fed on Jayce already, you're killing anybody that you want to for the most part. And that sort of like, it's so easy to blow up a squishy if you can poke them down a little bit and then commit with with the extra W attack speed. This is just going to make it so that if you can actually close that distance, you're not as boned if he was able to hit you a couple times.
Well, and one of the best counters to like a long range squishy champion who does a lot of damage like a Jayce or Nidalee is to get on top of them. Right. But when you do that with Jayce and then he hits you back harder than you hit him, it kind of limits your options. And, they had problems with that with Nidalee where, both of her stances were really strong. And, Jayce is the same type of situation where you couldn't fight him from far away and you couldn't fight him on top of him. So it just gives you kind of like, again, that counterplay to his kit.
Yeah, Elise so far is like the only stance changing champion that has found a role and stuck with it. Like they found a way to.
Well, hey,
good point.
She did start in the top lane, and then they smacked that down right away.
Right.
With numerous
Well,
percentage health.
yeah.
and she went support for a while too.
Yep. I
Yeah.
played those. I lost a great many a game as Elise support, trying to make it a thing.
Yeah, well,
So-
it was a thing for a bit. So Kalista, we talked quite a bit about her yesterday or on Monday's podcast, and this doesn't help probably any of the stuff that we talked about because I think
No, it
Punch
doesn't.
left with more questions than
Makes
answers.
her better.
So passive, Martial Poise. While Kalista still can't cancel her basic auto attack, she can select a different target during the first moments of her basic attack wind up.
Thank
This I
God.
will notice because I've always been trying to spread my rend out to multiple minions and then just E them all at once, but you can't do that. But with this, you should be able to.
Unless
Select
you
a
rush
different
grenades.
Oh my! This scares me so much because
Yeah,
now you could
without having to do
technically
movements.
ping pong auto attack people that are running at you and then kill both of them at the same time,
Right.
rather than just picking one
You're-
person because we need that. This is gonna be great. This is
I
gonna.
wouldn't worry
this is-
about that.
I'm so afraid of Kalista. I'm not
I am
that
too.
worried
She's
about
scary.
that per se, but I'm very afraid of Kalista because I've seen some really good
Hey,
Kalistas
Draven.
lately.
Hey, the good news is any Kalista players will stop playing in 6 months because their hand is going to cramp up from having to click so
That's
goddamn
exactly
much.
right.
that's true.
I had to ice my forearm.
Carpal
yesterday.
tunnel is on its way.
Kalista's just one of those champions where the good ones are really good and the bad ones are just really bad. There's like very little middle ground with her.
There are few things more depressing than looking like a pincushion and knowing that at any moment she can press one button and you're gonna die.
Yeah. Yep.
That like even when you're incredibly tanky and you're like, oh, I still have half health, like that doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
Yeah, this changes, in my mind, this changes mostly just for lasting purposes. Where it's like, I want to hit that one. Oh, no, not that one. I want to hit this creeper
Right.
here.
And
That's
you gotta
the
wait.
sort of time where I change my target that fast. If I'm in the middle of a team fight, I'm usually in much better control of who I'm attacking. So I highly doubt there's going to be an issue of me jumping back and forth between two targets thanks to this change.
I'm glad that you're in control because I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I still try to cancel auto attacks when I'm playing her rather than let it finish and then jump.
Brutal.
W Sentinel has had a change. Soul marked cooldown per target is now 6 seconds. Soul marked duration is 2 seconds. Tooltip will be updated next patch from 1.5. So she gets to soul mark targets more quickly.
Yeah, for the support to hit
I
harder.
think that this helps a little bit if you decide to run. Before, there was no real reason to not run a tanky engaged champ with her because your cooldowns are typically up every 8 to 11 seconds, so you still got that proc off. It really wasn't a big deal. But this, if you do run a squishy target with her, there is a benefit to that to kind of outweigh some of the the risk of running a squishier support with her. So you do have either your auto attack or an ability up more often to be able to proc that. So that's really what it's going to affect is the ability to run the support.
This will make her laning a bit better, which she needed. I mean, it was actually pretty hard to follow up on that soul marked passive since it dropped off so quickly. I mean,
Right.
you need to be
Absolutely.
on point with your support. Like, okay, attack this guy at the same time. Yeah. But now
Right.
you have a little bit more time to react.
The only
An extra half
time
second, yeah.
I actually really noticed, at least when playing support, that passive even making a difference was if I could CC lock somebody down and we were just able to hit them at the same time, just due to the fact that they were stuck standing still.
Right.
So-
But again, this, with it being that 6 seconds, it just opens it up a little bit for that range type of
Right.
support to jump in there. So, and that will be more useful. And like Punch was saying with the 1.5 second, if you were a tanky champion and you didn't have your cooldown up right away, it was kind of useless. So, I mean, it just opens it up a little bit, I think, for a little bit more variety in her supports.
Yeah, this could definitely bring about a poke lane with Kalista. With a Q max first, instead of the Ren max. If Kalista maxes her Q for poke, and then you've got a range support to maximize Sentinel's proc every 6 seconds, that could be brutal.
Yeah. You actually would have a really scary poke lane with that.
And if Sona didn't get her change this patch, I would recommend Sona Kalista, but...
Let's jump into it. General base movement speed of Sona has been decreased by 5, is now 325 from 330, and Hymn of Valor's powered Corgi amplification damage has been decreased by 10%, 50 to 40.
Now, we did touch on this, but now that Daze is finally back, how much does this hurt Sona since you're this Sona aficionado?
Here's the thing about Sona. Sona is a tough champion. She kind of has too much poke for sustain champion and too much sustain for poke champion. And my concern is that the last time they nerfed her, they nerfed both her Q and her W, and then this time they're nerfing her Q. So they're kind of knocking both down at the same time. So I'm afraid that she's going to enter like an area where she doesn't do either one extremely well. As opposed to when you have things like Alistar and Taric, who are tanky and have a little bit of sustain, or you have Soraka, who has a little bit of poke and a lot of sustain. She's not going to do either one extremely well, is what I'm afraid of if they keep knocking down both aspects of her at the same time. Her Q damage is obnoxious, and I'm not sure that this is going to put her, like, it will affect her, and I haven't done the exact math on it, and I will before the next time we come back. It will affect her in lane, and I'm sure I'll be playing a lot of her because I have been playing a lot of her, but her Q and her damage is still incredibly oppressive, especially if you run very offensive runes and masteries on her, that I don't think this is going to make her unable to trade in lane. The base movement speed is very slight, but again, with Sona, you want to run in Q, run out, or run in. You actually want to run in auto Q, auto run out. So this might give your opponent a little bit more time to trade back. But even if they do, I think they're not going to win the trade. You just have to be really careful about when you do it. I'm going to have to run numbers on it and play it a little bit because I haven't played it, obviously, since the change. But that's my biggest concern. If they continue to nerf both aspects of her, I feel like they really need to figure out if they want her to be a poke champ or they want her to be a sustain champ, and then go with that. Because there are other champions who are
that's the thing. I don't
well-rounded, but
I think she can be both a poke and a sustain champ because all her entire kit is about providing utility to your team, and damage isn't utility.
But the problem is that when you have one person that does everything well, they have to nerf her until she's not good at anything. And there are tons of champions out there like that aren't bad, but they're like jack of all trades, master of none. And we've talked about those champions before, where they don't really have a certain niche that they're going to fit into. They kind of like work in everything, but I don't know. I just feel like she should be one or the other. And in making her do both a ton of damage and a ton of sustain, they're just gonna have to nerf her to the point where she is poke and sustain, and then she's just not gonna be great at anything.
They could do that, or they could just make an incentive to either max, like make it so that you have to max one ability or the other to get a difference out of it, and then you can choose whether you want to be a sustain or a poke. So like if they ended up doing something to where the scaling starts low but it gets significantly better. If
you do that anyway. On Sona, you don't take E until level 8.
I know that.
Q and W, and you always max Q first, 90% of the time.
I realize that, but they could also change that up by making it so that E is better to get in certain situations, so it can dilute those points out a bit. Or what you can do is just make it so that the differences between levels starts really poor early, and then eventually
that
could
almost
scale
sounds
much
like
later.
A rework, though. When you start talking about changing,
I know, and they've already done it.
And they just did the rework. I don't expect them to do anything like that, but that's my biggest concern, is that they're doing those nerfs to both aspects of her. And when you have someone that, there's lots of champions out there that are not great at any one thing, and because they're just not fantastic picks. Usually your best champions are either great at two things and get nerfed, or they're really good at one thing and you really build them and you play them to capitalize on that thing. There are not a lot of champions that are like meh in the middle. Those are the champions you just don't see played, or you see the mains play them who can really, who really like the champion. But that's my thought on her. I'll let you guys know. I haven't had a lot of time, but I'll let you guys know. I'll run some math and I'll play her after the change comes out and let you know exactly how it affects her lane. But I think she's still going to be a bully. It doesn't take away like her scaling. I mean, she still has a decent, just 50% on her AP, on her Q, and things like that. So she does a lot of damage regardless. Like if you can Q and auto, even if you don't have the power cord up, it still does a lot of damage. Like you're still going to hurt in lane. It's just you're not going to have that like burst. I can't tell you how many times I've like flash Q power corded someone under tower and they didn't even see it coming. Like you're not going to be able to like just nuke people like that unexpectedly, but you're still going to do a lot of damage and you're still going to be a pretty big lane bully. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know.
Now that we've been talking through this though, and I completely understand the eventual, like if you keep nerfing, she's not going to be great at both. But in just talking this out, the fact that they rescinded the damage on her Q a bit, and the fact that she's maxing Q and W before E even has any points in it, doesn't taking the damage back. It doesn't. I actually really like what they're doing because it doesn't necessarily kill her ability to poke. It just makes it so that like there is a point where you can scale it down enough to where yes, it's not overbearing, but it's just enough to be noticeable, but not to the point where you're able to solo kill people because you decide to play overly aggressive.
Oh, I don't disagree with you, and I'm the first person to tell you that there's, like I said, she has way too much poke for sustain, and she has way too much sustain for poke. Like there's just an inherent problem with Sona, and it's not that she's necessarily overpowered. She's just very, very difficult to play against, and it's more of like a annoyance type thing. It's like a Teemo thing where you just hate. It's so irritating to play against, and it makes lanes just not fun. Like I've had plenty of people just rage quit lanes, not because they couldn't win, just because it's really irritating. And yes, they can do that. They can find like that middle ground, which is great. But my only concern is, again, if this isn't enough for them, are they going to now nerf the
keep taking it back,
part of it? Like where they eventually have to decide like one or the other in terms of where they're going to even her out. So that's my only concern, is that if they keep doing that, where last patch they nerfed both spells and then this time they're taking Q down a notch, is just where they're going to find that balance. And I think that they can find that balance. It's just where is it going to be type of thing.
And the other issue is if they overshoot that point and she's too weak, and that completely takes her out of. I mean, that hurts her so much that she's just ineffective in positions where she used to be strong.
Right, and she's not a pick or ban type thing at this moment either. I mean, she's just not in an overpowered state.
Right.
We will definitely need you to, run some numbers, come back, tell us how it is, how it plays, how it feels when it comes back, because we still have. We're pushing 9 o'clock, but I kind of just want to quickly touch on Smite instead of the other changes here. We have the double Smite charges now coming out of the jungle. We have Stalker's Blade is now stealing 20% of the enemy's movement speed instead of reducing it by 50% total, and Hunter's Machete is now granting 5 gold per minions. Plus, we have new entrances additional. And now we have new entrances that are in the bases on both sides that only allied champions can walk in and out of. All these big jungle changes are,
and Rek'Sai got damage nerfs. Yeah,
I think with all these changes, though, that this, while Poacher's Knife isn't going to change, I look at this and I think counter jungling is back. Counter jungling is a thing that we need to do. You can now steal people's buffs. You can use your Smite offensively because you'll have 2 charges sitting on.
In a way, was definitely necessary. And there's a lot of top tier junglers who have been complaining that farming their jungle is just way better over the entire course of the game, because if you're missing jungle camps as they're spawning, you're missing out on a significant amount of gold if the enemy is able to do it, and you can't get anything out of ganks or counter jungling. So
Well, I also see with the double smite, we talked about it the last time we talked about these changes. I see it as an ability to grab the Raptor buff and then still have a smite up for the Dragon or Baron. So you grab the Raptor buff, clear a ward, and then you can still use that smite to finish it off.
That's a huge
that's
thing,
pretty huge.
too, for like the first Dragon to just smite it and already go down there and know that it's clear when you get there.
Exactly. So it's neat. We'll see things like that coming out with it.
We'll play with a little bit more, touch on it again. Some of these changes are definitely ones where we really want to play the game. With that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the podcast. I know it kind of feels all of a sudden.
Don't know how we did it.
Let's do it.
We made it to
9.
Yeah, we made it all the way to 9.
After already discussing the stuff, because we like to talk.
We had
we added context. That Blizzard's
much
context.
more context.
Blizzard context?
Or I'm sorry, Riot's context.
Your game's right, Claude.
You're right.
Fan?
My brother and and one of my friends, they're playing nonstop Heroes of the Storm, and I keep telling them, look, you need to stop playing an inferior game. That game is just boring and repetitive. And then they played some LOL last night, and they had a really good time, even though it was an hour-long game, and realized what they were missing, I think. So I hope they're listening to this episode.
Yeah, make them listen.
Good job, buddy.
All right, guys, that's episode number 226 of the Trinity Force podcast. Crew is back. Hopefully, crew will be all back together again on Monday. So we will see you all that day, I guess. See you.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, we love you. Bye.